Where does that come from? Because as I'm seeing, and I'll ask the question, because where does that come from doesn't mean anything. But when I think about what you are describing and talking about, you're making an intentional decision to invest money into these little jars, into jelly, into all this stuff that you're setting up before you know that it's going to work. Like you probably had the goal, right, and hope that it would work, but you didn't know that. Many entrepreneurs, many agency owners, consultants are very risk averse. They're conservative. They don't want to spend money on marketing. They'll do whatever they can to kind of cut corners and try and grow their business without making that kind of investment. But here you are on the exact opposite side of the table saying, no, we're going to put money into something because we believe that it will work. And it does pay off. Where does that come from for you? Where did you learn that lesson?
So three things. One, I love slow cookers. I love putting a meat in a slow cooker and cooking it all day, like 8-9 hours, right? And it's gorgeous. And my brother smokes beef, makes these briskets. He lived in Texas for a long time, and just slow cooking food is so good. So it's the idea of like, there's this magazine called Fast Company. So it's the idea of like slow company. What does it mean to like actually go slow in business and nurture things? And just kind of like, I actually, after my first year of university, I came home and my mom let me do this big garden in our backyard. And I love everything about fruit and vegetable gardening because you just wait. Most of the time, gardening is just waiting. And there's this amazing story of the idea of even the olive tree. You know, the olive tree, a lot of people would plant little baby olive trees, knowing that their generation, that they themselves will never taste the olives themselves, but they plant the olive tree for that next generation. So it's
but Darian, where I know you said there's three things, but where does that come from? Like, how did you get to that place? Because in entrepreneurship, in business, the typical business owner is rushing, right? We want results quickly. We want things to happen now. When did you start to connect those dots and actually see, as long as I plant the right seeds, if I'm patient and consistent, I will be able to reap the fruit of my labors. But when did that happen for you? When did you see kind of connect those dots?
Summer 2000. Came home after a first year university, and I built this garden, a fruit and vegetable garden. And every night I tend to it. On the weekends I tend to it. And it was that taught me of like, if you want good stuff, you just have to wait, wait and wait. And and there's all these sayings like, good things come to those who wait, but it's true though on so many levels. And then
so that was number one. You said there was two others, right?
So number two, the idea being is, let's just say there's an old saying. It's like, kill two birds with one stone. I prefer the less violent version, which is feed two birds with one grain. And so the idea is, even if the charity gala was useless, no one picked up a jelly jar. They threw the jelly jars in the garbage. I don't know, for some reason the charity gala was actually a bust, and there's a bad, whatever. I at least knew that I did something good for charity. I at least knew that like something really cool happened to help the world. And so at least I could sleep well at night, knowing that we did something cool versus just buying a random billboard or buying something else. And then the third thing being the idea of operating in faith versus fear. So I think in every decision we make, whether even, coming on this podcast with you, or, showing up to a meeting early, or, deciding to mail a thank you card to someone at random, like those are all decisions. You can either send a thank you card in fear, which is fine. It still gets it done. Or I could show up to the show in fear of like, well, if I don't show up, Michael's going to not like me and it'll go horrible. And, there's all these, it's the human emotion inside of us. But if you operate, I think I'm trying to figure out, how do I, each day when I wake up, how do I operate in faith? How do I say, hey, I'm going to come on the show. I don't know what's going to come of it. I don't know what's going to happen with Michael and I. I don't know what's going to happen when I write that thank you card. It may not even go. If Canada Post may lose it, which they probably won't, but they could, right? But go operating in faith that something good will happen from this.
I think that's so powerful, because very often what I observe is that those who have a mindset of fear or scarcity tend to not even take the action. So you start to think, well, like what if I spend all this time writing all these thank you cards, sending them out, or donating, and I don't generate business? Is it really worth it? And then you don't take that action, then you never know whether or not it would work, right? So having that abundance mindset, or as you call it, the faith mindset of just being able to move forward and take that chance, right? I think it's such a powerful dynamic that so many people miss because they're overanalyzing, overthinking, looking at everything that could go wrong. And that's what actually holds them back from taking the action that could prove to them that it actually could work out very well for them.
Yeah. There's this